Welcome to Scorched Earth. This is going to be a general reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon and Ascendant for the month of May. If you don't know what your Moon or Ascendant signs are, have a look in the description box below. There's a link down there that will help you get your birth chart for free. And then you should come back and watch the videos for your Moon and Ascendant signs, because you might find that you resonate with that more than you do with your Sun sign, or you may find that it just sort of gives you a greater overview of what's going on with you generally than you'll get from just your Sun sign. My books are open for readings, but when I checked just before I started recording, I am fully booked for May entirely. Every slot is gone, and every slot in June has gone, bar some that I've got left on the 30th. So if that is something that you're interested in, I'd move swiftly. More slots will open up as time goes on, because I kind of set the parameters so it doesn't let anybody book more than 60 days in advance, because frankly I just don't know what will be happening by the end of June. So little by little they'll become free. So yeah, like I said, that's the thing. I want to express gratitude if you have already reached out and booked a personal reading. I appreciate that very much. And if you are in that small group of people who booked straight off as soon as it was announced, thank you for sticking with me while I sorted out teething problems. There were always going to be some, but it's all functioning beautifully now, so touch wood. So you may book without fear. And thank you for your continued support in whatever way that you choose to give it, whether it's just watching the videos or subscribing, liking, sharing, the donations. It's all incredibly appreciated. And the messages, I get some really awesome, really interesting messages from people quite often. So yeah, keep that up. I like it. Right then, Scorpio, let's have a look and see what is going on with you. Now, 3 cards for Scorpio, please. First card that we've got is the Hermit. It's the Lost Forest deck that I'm using today, by the way. It's the card of Virgo. Ooh. Second card is the Lovers, card of Gemini. 2 out of 2 for Major Arcana. And what's coming towards Scorpio, please? The 4 of Fire. That's interesting. Bottom of the deck, we've got the 5 of Oceans, which is the 5 of Cups in a standard deck. It talks about feeling isolated and feeling, kind of pushed out and alone. Underneath that, we've got the Moon. Seems like there's some deep stuff that's been going on within you recently. Scorpio. Sorry, I'm just quite surprised because the Deviant Moon seemed to suggest that it wanted to be the clarifying deck there, which is oddly dark. Who am I to question? All right. Usually only use this for shadow work, so it's quite interesting that it's squeaked like that. Oh, right. Why is the Hermit here for Scorpio, please? The first card that we've got is the 3 of Cups. No? That's interesting. And the second card is the Knight of Swords. That's interesting too. Why is the Lovers here for Scorpio, please? We've got the 7 of Cups. There. The Lovers here for Scorpio. And the Chariot. And the 4 of Fire. Where's the 4 of Fire here for Scorpio? We've got the 3 of Swords and the Knight of Cups. I'm definitely going to be pulling some more cards for that because I want some more information there. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the King of Wands. That's the card of Leo, if you're dealing with a Leo, and directly underneath that is the 6 of Cups. So this might actually be a Leo from the past that you are kind of mulling over at the moment, but we'll get to it. The first card that you've got, it's in your recent past, kind of touching on your present, is the Hermit, and that's the card of Virgo. You might be dealing with a Virgo, but I feel like this is your energy, right? I feel like, Scorpio, you've been kind of quiet, actually, over the last few months. There's been a lot of stuff going on with the other signs, and particularly with the other fixed signs, but you seem to be walking a slightly different path to the other fixed signs at the moment. And there's been some seems like you've been doing a bit of work, actually, is what you're doing. And a lot of the things that you've been working on are to do with emotional matters, the matters of the heart. Because like the predominant colour on this card is green, and that's the colour of the heart chakra. You'll notice how it looks like it's kind of exploding open. And there's this kind of interesting beast that's come out of the light. It's quite a dangerous looking card, actually. It's clarified by the Three of Cups. Now this can be a card of reunion and reconciliation, so it's quite possible that you have been mulling over somebody from the past and you've been maybe contemplating whether to reach out to this person. Right? But these three people are in the mouth of a very sharp looking fish, and none of them look like they're making a particularly sensible decision about something, right? Maybe you've been drinking a little bit too much during the lockdown, Scorpio. And maybe it's kind of affecting your judgment a little bit at times. Because we've got this Knight of Swords here, and this Knight of Swords moves very fast. Like it sort of, as the cards sit on my table, it seems to be gallivanting towards this potential reconciliation, reunion kind of energy. But given that this character in the middle is she's pouring the water on her head, right? This does not look like it's particularly well thought out, and it seems like there's an instinct there, there's an urge to just that keeps rising up in you to go back to something. Because it seems like you've got some stuff you want to say, actually, more than anything. Let's have a look. Started doing extendeds for all the signs now, by the way. It's over on Vimeo. I'm kind of only really doing them if I think there's a point to doing them, rather than just doing them for the sake of them. So at this point, I'm not entirely sure whether you're going to get one or not. But if you are, it's in the description box, so you should have a look at that if any of this is resonating with you. If by the end of it all seems perfectly clear and there's nothing to investigate, then I shan't bother doing it. But I'll just let you know. Tell me about this Three of Cups and Knight of Swords. Justice. King of Wands has fallen out there again. Let's shuffle it all back in. Tell me about the Three of Cups and the Knight of Swords, please. Six of Pentacles. Wow. All right. So I pulled three cards to explain these. This Knight of Swords energy that you've got, and the Three of Cups, and all three cards are cards that speak about balance, right? The first one that we've got is Justice. The second one that you've got is the Six of Rings, which is the Six of Pentacles in the standard deck. And then we've got the Two of Rings, and all of these talk about achieving balance and equilibrium, right? The Justice card of Libra. It can talk about legal matters and stuff like that. Maybe there's an aspect of this to it, but I tend to see the cards, the major arcana cards, in a bigger sense than that. And it could be that the person that you've been thinking about has been a karmic partner, you know, somebody who made a really big impression on you, and maybe you didn't treat them well, or maybe they didn't treat you well. But there's a sense of wanting to try and bring some equilibrium to the relationship. I don't get the impression that this is somebody that you speak to, despite the presence of the Knight of Swords, because it feels like the Knight of Swords is kind of like an urge to go and speak to this person. And obviously, if you already did, then that wouldn't be there, right? There's a sense of wanting to bring some justice to the situation, maybe make amends, possibly, but certainly put it on a more even footing than it is at the moment, because both of these cards, both of them, talk about restoring balance to things, just as justice does here, right? But notice how both of these cards both have hands on them that are clasped together like this, right? It's almost like there's a low-level hope, or there has been a low-level hope, that at some point you'll be able to fix this, to bring justice to, and kind of restore things to something that you're more comfortable with, because you're not really comfortable with this at the moment. Now, the Hermit energies come out because I think you've been doing a lot of thinking about it. And this is the conclusion that you've come to. You want to kind of balance things out. In your current energy, you've got the Lovers, right? That's the card of Gemini. And for me, it's also, the card of making a choice. The fact that it's come up in the same read as Justice, like that, though, sort of gives some credibility that this might have been a karmic partner of some description, right? Somebody that you taught a lot to, and who taught a lot to you. And by which I mean, didn't teach you how to speak a different language or something like that. But they taught you about yourself, I think. And it's interesting, as I'm looking at this card here, I'll show it to you in a second, but there's a mermaid and a man on the side of the bank. And under the water, the mermaid is a skeleton and there's a skull. It's obviously a siren of some description. But they made me think very strongly of death, right? And you're Scorpio, death, it's your card. I'm going to pull some more cards for this, but the clarifiers that have come up, 2 sevens, right? Spiritual numbers. If the 5s are, we'll start with the 4s. 4's foundational energy, right? It's you building things and you get to a point where you kind of, you know where your corners are and everything's cool. And then the 5 energy comes along and it kind of grenades it, blows it all up, right? The 6 is kind of moving away from that, recovering from whatever happened in the 5. And when you get to the 7, it's about incorporating the lessons that you learned from that thing, right? And kind of growing off the back of it. So it's interesting that we've got double 7s come up here. But we've got the 7 of Cups and we've got the Chariot, right? The 7 of Cups is about, it's about options and it's about choices. But sometimes it's about illusion, right? With this particular card, there's a chap and he's doing some painting, and he has 2 faces, and one of the faces is looking at what he's painting and the other one is kind of looking slightly pursed-lipped at the 7 cups that are stacked on the table. Take a look. Right? And to me that feels very much like you're trying to focus on where you are and what you're doing, the things that are occupying your mind and your time at the moment, right? But part of you is kind of looking back at these cups, right? It's an emotional situation. It's almost like you can't give your full attention to what it is that you're trying to do, because there's something about this emotional situation that keeps drawing you back. And this is why you've had to do a lot of thinking about it. You've done a lot of thinking about it. You kind of come to the conclusion, with or without the addition of, many ales, that you would like to talk to this person and you would like to try and bring some justice and some balance to the situation. But it's not enough, and I suspect probably because you haven't actually done it yet. Right? Always kind of looking backwards at these cups. And then we've got the Chariot, right? As well as being the card of Cancer, this is the card of the self. All aspects of the self are kind of signified by this card. So we're talking about self-discipline and self-governance, you know, your ability to make your own choices and make your own way in life. And I noticed that the Chariot has got his back to the man who is looking at the cups. And it's almost like you're trying to get on with your life. You're trying to go forwards. You're trying to do this thing. But like a siren call, these cups are calling you back each time. Tell me about the 7 of Cups in the Chariot, please. 7 of Cups in the Chariot. Drop those. Tell me about the 7 of Cups in the Chariot. Wands. 7 of Cups in the Chariot. Oh. Really? At the bottom of the deck we've got the 9 of Swords, right? This is really bothering you. This is really getting to you. And to all intents and purposes, you look like you're getting on with your life. You look like you're moving forwards. You look like you're doing all of these things. But there is an energetic tie. There's an emotional bond that you keep turning around and looking at and kind of wishing that you could do something to alter the circumstances that it's sitting in at the moment, right? We've got an interesting array of cards that have come out directly underneath that. We've got the Ace of Rings, which is the Ace of Pentacles. That talks about starting something new, right? It's an opportunity to make a new start in something. So you could see this for moving home, potentially a new home of some description, a new job, a promotion, things like that. It's kind of things that have a tangible effect on your 3D existence, right? You can literally perceive it with your 5 senses. This is here in your mind. Then we have the 6 of Wands, which is a card of Leo. Again, I'm going to throw that in there, but it's also a card of success and victory. And so it's like one of the options that has something to do with the cups on the table is starting again, right? You feel like there's a draw to start again somewhere with something. But then we've got the King of Wands, different fucking deck, same card, right? Leo again, and Death, but in the reverse, right? I want to see you that way up, right? Because you are the absolute, you know, supreme being of transformation, and that's what Death talks about, right? It's endings and transformations and new beginnings. It's that constant cycle of evolving up. This is no movement, right? This is resisting transformation. The reason that you keep looking back at the cups is because you don't actually want to move on. You don't actually want to change. And you kind of do, but you don't, right? But that pull, that tie is still there. It's really fucking bothering you. It's bothering you a lot. Yeah. Directly underneath that we've got the Ace of Swords, but notice how this ace is speared right through this rose here. You know, maybe this is someone that you didn't treat very well, you know, and maybe you lied to them. Maybe you made them feel like a speared rose, potentially, or maybe they did it to you. You know, take it as it resonates. But you're the one who's having the issue with it at the moment. And directly underneath that we've got the 4 of Rings. Now usually that talks about holding on too tight, but in this particular depiction I always consider it to be kind of, it's slipping away from you. You know, you kind of feel like this whole thing slipped away from you, and there's lots of things that you would like to do to kind of rectify the situation, and for whatever reason they aren't available to you yet, right? You're holding yourself back, and that's a very Scorpionic thing to do anyway. You're either not letting it go, not acknowledging that there has been an end and that is it now, or this refers to your inability to transform the situation from what it is right now to what it is that you would like it to be. Take it as it resonates to you. Then we've got the 4 of Fire, right? That's the 4 of Wands in a standard deck. This is a really interesting card because not only is it the card of Leo, again, It's also the card of the twin flame. I'm going to throw it in there. It's also a portal card. You know, it's about walking through into a new life. But for me, it always talks about home, right? It talks about those people, those places, those situations that make you feel like you have come home, right? That is deep connection to a person or a place or a thing. You know, it's when your soul relaxes. And, you know, and this is part of why it comes to mean the twin flame card, because you are literally, if you're in a twin flame relationship, when you are literally with that person, that is two halves of a soul coming back together. There's no more profound sense of coming home than meeting your twin. Of course, it has lots of other issues with it that we don't have time to go into now. But home, you know? And maybe this has got something to do with a potential move or a change in circumstances of some description. Now, it's clarified by the Three of Swords and the Knight of Cups, which is a really interesting combination coming out here, because the Four of Fire and the Knight of Cups go together really, really quite well. Like, they're not two cards that I'm particularly surprised to see. But this here, this doesn't really fit. And this is what's coming towards you. Tell me about this Three of Swords, please. Where's the Three of Swords here? Scorpio. Right. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Six of Cups again. Right? This is the past. This is going backwards. But what's flown out is the Seven of Pentacles and death, but in the upright this time, right? And this would seem to suggest an absolute transformation of circumstances as you currently enjoy them, right? Because this doesn't just have to be a person. Like I said, it can be a place or a thing, right? You know, if you've had any kind of home issues at all, there's a notion here of moving house and all that kind of thing, and that's a possible thing. But we have the Three of Swords, which is the heartbreak, right? But then we have a card that speaks of current circumstances, and then we have a card that speaks of absolute transformation, right? We have you in there right now. What is not currently clear to me is whether this is you trying to make this approach to this person and being knocked back and rejected, and it then transforming your current environment, right? I.e., it enables you to understand that this is now ended, this is now past, and it is time to move on, right? It's a complete divestment from the situation, emotionally, energetically, in all senses. Or whether this is you acknowledging your wounded heart because of, you know, this energetic tie that still exists, and this causing you to then transform the status quo, right? And I think that's kind of possible, because then we've got the Knight of Cups, which is about going forwards and making that offer to someone, right? It's getting in touch. It's going like, all right, I've got this here cup. Are you interested in it? Tell me about the Knight of Cups. Ooh, two together. It's clarified by the Nine of Swords and the Seven of Swords, okay? And this indicates to me that there's a level of self-deception going on here, right? This is what you'd like to do. But because you're Scorpio and because you don't like volunteering your feelings and all that kind of thing, like what you're actually going to do is you're just going to sit with the emotional and mental turmoil for a bit longer and convince yourself that this thing would never happen in the first place. Scorpio. You know, it's almost like you prefer to sit with the wounded heart that you know. You know, and this character is literally doinking its finger on the sword that's coming through its chest. It's like, it's real. It's tangible. I can feel it. It's literally bursting through my chest. It's pricking my finger. this is a cloud in the sky, you know, with a castle on the top of it. It's just, you know, it's glitter and rainbows. It doesn't really exist. You'd rather sit with the pain. And because, and possibly, Scorpio, that's a place that is more comfortable for you anyway than opening up and being vulnerable. Tell me about the Seven of Pentacles and death. Seven of Pentacles and death. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Queen of Wands now, and the Star, followed by the Three of Swords. And to clarify the Seven of Pentacles and death, we have the Four of Swords, the Eight of Pentacles in reverse, and the Two of Wands. I can see this going either way, actually, Scorpio. I can see some of you trying to make the approach and then potentially being rejected. I'm going to pull another couple of cards and have a look there. But the Four of Wands, the Four of Swords is about taking a step back. It's about withdrawing, right? It follows on from the Three of Swords. It's about that rest and recuperation, that moment of repose that we take when we kind of pull ourselves back from a situation that has wounded us, and we kind of pull the swords out and we let ourselves rest and we let ourselves heal. You know, if you ever had your heart broken, the last thing you want to do is go to the pub. You know, you kind of sit in and eat ice cream, and well, apparently that's what people do. I don't know. But the Eight of Pentacles in reverse suggests that there's no more work to be done on this thing, right? Which puts you at a crossroads. Right now, you need to make a decision about which way you go forwards, because things can't continue the way that they have been. That's for certain. Because it's stopping you moving forwards, but it doesn't look necessarily like this person wants to come anywhere with you. Tell me about the Nine of Swords and the Seven of Swords, please. Nine of Swords and the Seven of Swords. Wait, there's a whole fucking heap of cards I'm not taking now. What I have got is the Seven of Wands. More sevens, Scorpio. Seven of Swords. Seven of Cups. Seven of Wands. Seven of Pentacles. In fact, you've got a full house of sevens there. Fuck. Seven of Pentacles just tried to jump on there as well. And that's Nine of Swords and the Seven of Swords, please. It's the Sun card. If you're not dealing with a fucking Leo, I'll be very surprised indeed. And it doesn't have to be the Sun sign. It could be their moon or the rising sign. There it is. Ooh. Four of Cups. And now the Three of Swords is at the bottom of this deck. No, like... I'm talking about this from your perspective because this is your reading and I can see you've been thinking about it. But remember that the energies can flip. Like, I'm just literally reading the energies of the situation. So this could be you, or this could be the cross-watcher approaching you, right? Take it as it resonates. But the two cards that have come out here underneath the Nine of Swords and the Seven of Swords are the Seven of Wands, which is a defensive energy, right? It's very guarded. It's very Scorpionic, in fact. And the Four of Cups, which is a rejection, right? It's rejection of offers, or it's a fear of rejection of offers. And it seems like it's roughly half and half. Some are going to actually make the approach and get knocked back. And some are going to think about it, agonize over it, overthink it to death, then decide it's all a fantasy, get their guard up because they're super afraid of being vulnerable, and decide that they were just going to get, you know, they were just going to get rejected anyway. You just put it down to experience as a missed opportunity. Scorpio. Well, that's harsh. So I'm going to do an extended on this. I'm absolutely certain about that. If you're interested, the link is in the description box. I feel like maybe you need to have a little think about, like, and clearly you've been introspecting, right? Try and work out what exactly it is that's kind of pulling you back to this old situation. Is it the person themselves, or is it something else, right? Is it something about just how you were feeling at the point that relationship happened, you know? What is it specifically that they bring that you can't get from someone else, you know, that you can't even get from yourself, in fact? Look into it, because all the answers, my dear, are within you. They absolutely are. Yeah, okay. I'm going to leave it there. I love you very much, Scorpio, and I'll see you soon.